Welcome to another edition of Trail Runner Nation. My name is Don Freeman.
And I'm Scott Warr. And today we're joined by Megan Canfield, better known in the ultra running world as the Queen. And for good reason. She's earned more top 10 finishes at Western States than any other woman in history. 11. She's represented Team USA on the world stage, been competitively running at the highest levels for decades, and inspired generations of runners with her longevity, her grit, and her generosity. She recently wrote an article in Ultra Running Magazine called Adventure of Life that immediately drew Don and I into this article. We've been saying for years that on this podcast that running might just make us better human beings, and her article represents this philosophy to a T. We're thrilled to have royalty on the podcast today. And Megan, first of all, the first question, I've known you've been called the Queen for decades, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't give yourself that name. How did you get the name, the Queen?
Well, it's a funny story. Not too surprising. I got it from Craig Thornley. But
yeah. The director of Western States.
Right, yep. Right, the Queen. So, and for the longest time, I thought it was because I actually started beating him in races. But but then it turns out no. And because we were talking about it one day, and it had to do with, we used to do Tuesday track workouts together. We had quite a group, and this was when he still lived in Oregon, and we'd meet at a track in Eugene, and I was generally the only woman in the group, and I was the only one who had a coach at the time who would give me workouts. And so we'd all show up, and like I'd say what the workout was, and they'd all do it with me, which was fantastic. And one day we were doing, I don't know, 800 repeats or something, and there were two of the guys were in front of me. One was on my right, one was on my left, and I had two guys behind me, and we just did this loop. And the 800, and we finished it, and Craig says, it's like she's the fucking Queen or something. That's where it came from.
It's amazing how that is stuck and become ubiquitous with Megan Canfield.
Yeah, and I do like to say that because every now and then we get other queens, and I would say right now the Queen is Courtney, and for a very good reason, but I feel like she has a title and I have a nickname. So mine's a nickname, hers is a title.
Well, the one thing that drew me into this article at the very beginning, I think you started it with just the perfect opening because it sucked me in with both legs and arms, was one of the common things that you hear when people drop out of a race is, it wasn't my day. And how that kind of bothers you. Tell us a little bit about why that bothers you and why you decided to write this article around that theme.
Yeah, I think the article came about because Amy Clark, the editor, she gives the writers a theme for the particular issue coming out, and this was going to be about different adventures. And I'm like, oh yeah, well I could write about going around Mount Hood or Mount St. Helens. Like that just seems so, I don't know, not uncommon or just, I don't know, didn't really speak to me to do something like that. And I don't know, it just came to me about that life is an adventure, and all these other things are maybe experiences that add to your adventure. And then for some reason I thought of how, in a race, I hear it, we all hear it. They dropped out because it wasn't their day. And that's in that moment. And more often than not, 2 days later, they're just regretting that they quit. And so I wanted to sort of try to have people look at it a little differently when they're feeling that in the moment. So that's kind of what that was for.
I think that was a great approach, because we've all been there. We've all been at that spot where we're thinking, if I could snap my fingers right now and be back in my car and on my way home, I would do it. But this is not working. Snapping my fingers is not helping. So right. I think we've all been there. And that's what makes that article so good, is we can relate to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of ultra running, the big part of ultra running is suffering. And the camaraderie we get out of suffering with others is, I think, one of the great equalizers of our sport and what it makes part of the community so great. And when you've suffered and suffered together and you cross the finish line, I don't know, it's just the greatest feeling ever. And I remember years and years ago, I was running the San Francisco Marathon. And kind of from the start, I was like, oh gosh, I'm so tired. I just feel terrible. And why am I doing this? And I just kept doing that for mile after mile. And with about 6 miles to go, I realized, that when you cross the finish line, you're going to forget all of this and you're just going to be saying, oh my God, that was so great. And when's the next one? And ever since then, I have drawn on that experience when I feel like the why, or I never really feel like quitting. I just kind of wish I were done. But I just know that when you cross the finish line, it's just such this huge relief, and this thing that you did, and you started this thing and you finished it, regardless of your time, your place. You got from A to B, and that's what you signed up for.
Boy, my mind is going a million different directions right now with that, but I want to start with the first question I had when you first started that thought process, and that is, I love that you say, when things get bad in a race and you just go, you know what, it isn't my day, that people just give up and they throw in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
And you equated that to life, because there are inevitably, everybody has situations in their life that are terrible. I was recently in a situation that I was just thinking, this is not worth it. This is just crazy what's going
Mm-hmm.
on in my life. And it's easy just to give up. And you say, don't do it. This is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
As you're racing, whatever distance you're racing, whether it's a 10K or a half marathon or 100-miler, you're going to have bad spots.
Yeah.
And if you think of that bad spot as your excuse to quit, either in a race or either in life,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good. You need
Right.
to
Yeah.
recognize that. So
Right.
expound on that a little bit, Megan, and if you don't mind sharing some of the stories that you shared in your article.
Yeah. I guess the sort of common, or the theme starts when we're young and we have our goals and our dreams. I'm going to grow up and be a doctor, or I'm going to be an astronaut or a professional football player, and those are the things we cling to. It's what we know. We're young, and then you get older and things don't work out the way you wanted to. But if you put all your eggs in one basket, you can't just like, well, I'm never going to go to work because I didn't get to be an astronaut, so whatever. You pivot, and life is full of pivots. But every time we pivot, we have a new opportunity, and we're gonna maybe find something better or different, and we're gonna meet new people, and we're gonna build more community, and life just gets richer, I think, when we have lots of choices that we have to make.
And
I love this line that you used inside your article. You said, "This is a hole to dig out of, not to bury myself in." That is such, we find ourselves in a hole. So do we pull the rest of the dirt in over the top of us and just disappear, or do we find our way out? And we can do that on the trail. There's solutions to
100%.
life problems or trail problems.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what grit is, right? It's, yeah, you can fall down, get kicked and whatever, but you got to get back up and try a little harder. And it just feels really good. It's something to be proud of, to pull yourself out of these holes, and to have friends help you get out of the hole, yeah.
Well, and that's the other question I had way back when you were going through this. You said that it's because of the community, whether that's family, friends, or whomever around you, they're the ones that can help you dig yourself out of this hole, and help you make it to the finish line, whether it's a pacer, a crew member, or in life, a spouse, a friend, a relative. Rarely can we do it on our own. You need to have a community, and we need to be part of that community for someone else when they're going through it.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of group effort, teamwork, makes it all worthwhile. And besides all of that is the stories that we are creating during those moments, or then what we get to share with others. And you have to think about those things when you like just want to crawl in that hole and stay. Like, well, what are we going to learn out of this? You know, what am I going to gain? Can't I make my life a little bit richer if I just try a little bit harder? Yes, I'm miserable, but I might as well keep moving.
And one of the things in life and in races, and we don't learn this. Well, maybe we can have a mentor teach us this, but I think it's probably best learned through experience. That when you hit a tough spot, and you make it through it, I think you mentioned in your article that the best lessons come from failures, and I would say that in any first distance that you've raced, whatever distance that is, you may have a plan, like you said, Megan, that you want to become a doctor or an astronaut or
Yeah.
whatever. Rarely does life or a race go to plan. I don't know whether I've ever had a race go exactly the way that I planned.
Hmm.
And knowing that, whether it's a race or life, and being able to, like you said, pivot and learn from whatever circumstance. I think that is really a brilliant moment, and it's something that we learn as we experience life and racing.
And it's so true. And it's also, I think, so inspiring when our heroes have a bad day and they tough it out and they show their grit. I got to see Courtney finish UTMB this year, and she had a rough day. Still came in 10th, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
but but she's such a hero because she's such a generous person. She's she gives so much of herself to this sport and always with a smile on her face. And so I was at the finish area and people were waiting for her. It was, a lot of men had come through at this point. Oh yeah, good job, good job. And then people were like, "Where's Courtney? When's Courtney gonna come?" And as soon as it was the word was that she was coming, more people crowded in, and everyone was just so excited to see her. And I just thought that's what our sport is about. It's watching our heroes, falter and come back and have grit. And Adam Peterman is another one. Finished Western States. He had a pretty crappy day probably, but he finished. And I think that so many, almost everybody else is a struggler, right? Has bad days or just average runners or sloggers or whatever, and they get to see their heroes actually do something they can relate to. So I think that's every time we get out there, we're going to create another story.
Yeah, and it didn't matter whether Courtney was coming in first or 10th, people still rushed to see her finish because that was her moment, and they wanted to soak in some of that excitement and energy that she brought to the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious to unpack that a little bit, Megan. I would don't think that I am stretching the truth by any means, but I think in for many people, you're a hero to them. But let's focus on Courtney so you don't have to be embarrassed. Why is it that people think Courtney is a hero? Why is it that when she comes in 10th, that there's a big crowd around her? What does she do? What does she exude that maybe we can figure out and take some of that elixir and become, not necessarily to become a hero so people could pat us on the back or see us finish a race or whatever, but so that we can inspire others? Because that's what we want to really do, is we want to inspire those around us. What does she have?
She has generosity of spirit. She doesn't care who you are or what you've done. If you ask her for an autograph, she wants to know who you are, and she wants to know about you. She wants to know about your running. I've seen her do this with little girls come up to her and ask for her autograph, and she wants to know about them. And she's so welcoming and just makes everyone feel really good. And it's pretty simple. She's just a good Minnesota girl.
And I would bet that she's not always in a good mood. But yet when that happens, she puts on a smiling face and she does it anyway, because that's her values as a Midwestern girl, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
or woman. Sorry, my wife would kill
I
me if
know.
I
I
said
said,
girl. Sorry.
I started it. My
Well,
fault.
you can do that. I can't.
She's the queen. She can do it if she wants.
All right.
So I
She's young
think
enough
that
to be my daughter, so that's maybe why. I don't know.
I think that that's one thing that we can adopt is just putting on a smiling face. We've all worked at aid stations where we've seen somebody come through in a bad place,
Hmm.
and they just bring in negativity into the aid station. We also have seen people that are in a bad place, and they come in with a smile on their face. And I think I've
Yeah.
seen many videos of Courtney late in the race where she's not having a good day, but
Hmm.
yet you always see her amazing smile, pearly
Yeah.
whites. She's
Yeah.
thanking the aid station workers, and I think um, that energy is reflected back. I
Yeah.
think that you go in and you don't want to be nice, you don't want to be friendly, you
Yeah.
don't want to be thankful, but if you do it anyway, some of that reverberates back, and you
It
have this
does. And
power going out of the
yeah,
aid station.
that happens with me. If I go into aid station, I'm usually pretty happy to see an aid station. Like, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
finally the aid station. I'm pretty happy. And when people are, helping you and encouraging you and, filling your bottles, it makes you feel good. And then, yeah, you can take that back out with you and be inspired to keep going. Yeah.
Hey Scott, I'm gonna come back to the article right now, and
Yeah.
and some of the thoughts that came into my head as I started reading it were three questions, and I want to pose these to both of you, and I'll pitch in if I had anything to contribute. But the three questions came: what gets us going? What what allows us to continue being a runner, to get out there, to either make it to the aid station or get out of bed? What gets us going? Do you have any thoughts on that?
For me, I think originally it was mostly just curiosity, and I love the
Mm,
feeling of running.
Mm.
I like how it makes me feel. Sometimes it doesn't feel so great at the start, but after a while it's like it just is a nice groove, feels good. And then what keeps me going is curiosity.
Well, not yet. I'm gonna ask Scott what
Oh,
gets Scott going, and then we'll go to keeps. Scott,
well,
what gets you going in the morning?
I would say if I went and ran every time I felt like going and running, I probably wouldn't run a whole lot. So I
Oh,
don't think it's motivation or wanting to go out and run. Although there are days like that. Don't get me wrong. There are days I do want to go out and run, and I'm excited to go out there run. But more times than not, what gets me out is an identity that I have labeled myself as a runner.
mhm,
And that identity, we've talked about this, and it's been an aha moment in my life. I didn't always see myself as a runner, but now I do. After years of running, I finally said, you know what? I'm a runner.
mhm,
And because I'm a runner, I go out in the mornings and I run. And because I go out and run in the mornings, that makes me a runner. And so it's kind of this circle of
mhm,
discipline initially,
mhm.
but it's
Yeah,
a identity thing that gets me out.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What about you,
I'll throw
Don?
one in there. I'll throw one in there. I think what gets me going is making sure that I don't disappoint myself. That I'm not like I set a goal. I said I'm going to do it, and now I'm starting my day off not even meeting my first goal. That's not good. I just need to get out there and get a win. So I'll
You
get a
didn't
win
make your
first thing
bed?
in the
Is that what
morning.
you said? You didn't make your bed in the morning? Is that what you're a Marine? Didn't you have to make your bed every morning?
If I'm the first one out of the bed, I don't have to make it. So I'll tell you, there's a plus. I'm very lazy, and that's why I run. Okay, Queen, what keeps you running? What keeps you going?
Yeah, I guess two answers, honestly. One is curiosity, especially getting older and slower does make me curious. Like, how much slower can I get? I don't know. And I mean, honestly, it's a habit too. It's like, it's just something like brushing your teeth. Okay, oh, yep, time to go for a run. And sometimes I'll get halfway through the day. I'm like, oh, ooh, that's right. I still need to go for a run. So it's just, yeah, it's part of my life. But yeah, I am curious for sure. And I think that does keep me going because it's not as fun getting older and running. It doesn't bring me the same kind of joy. It's more of a satisfaction that I can still do it. So having to sort of have a mind shift, but curiosity is a big part of it. Yeah.
Megan, I have a follow-up question for that. Have you started to get slower yet? I mean,
Oh
that's
yes.
one of the things that you're famous for is how fast you've been for so many years. I mean,
Mhm.
have you noticed you're getting slower?
Oh, it's you just look at my Strava and you think she walking all the time because that looks really slow. No, I definitely have slowed quite a bit, and I think and menopause was, a big part of all of that. And now I lost my train of thought. That comes with menopause too.
I think I may be going through menopause, Megan.
So yeah, I one of the harder things to sort of get used to is I used to love to go to the track and do speed work, and
Ah,
because it just felt so fun to like push hard, and you got spring in your step and you're covering a lot of ground with every stride. And then when I started getting slower and I lost strength, then it was like, wow, I feel like I'm like trying to swim really fast and all I'm doing is splashing, and it was real
ah.
discouraging. So getting used to and accepting that, just go slower and enjoy it instead of beating yourself up, struggling really hard, and not being able to feel like you used to feel when you tried to go fast.
Boy,
So.
that is a stoic thought that you just put in our heads. There is regardless of the circumstances,
Yeah.
you have a choice of how you're going to respond.
Mhm.
And if you're upset that you're getting slower, or you're upset that you're hurt, and you react not in a good way, it
Mhm.
doesn't do anybody any good. But if,
Yeah.
like you said, get slower and you just say, you know what, that's who I am, and I'm going
Yeah.
to enjoy it.
That's the pivot part, right?
Yeah.
And the one of the many wonderful things about our sport is there's just so many ways to be involved that don't mean, racing to the top 10 or something, or means running with a mid pack or volunteering more and more, doing more different adventures. Yeah, it's a pretty big world. So there's lots you can do.
And I'm going to throw a plug in here, or coaching,
Or
and
coaching, absolutely.
Megan is a coach, and we'll put the link to the website, but you can find her at zenithcoaches.com. I think that's one of the best things you can do is give back, and you do that so generously. Thank you.
Scott,
How
I'm
about
going to
you,
take a
Don?
stab.
What keeps you
Well,
out?
I'll take a stab at that. So you've heard my analogy about a puddle and taking some gravel and throwing it in the puddle, and of course the gravel disappears, and you take another shovelful and you throw it in, and once again it disappears until finally on the next one some of it stays up top, and that's kind of like getting in shape. You've got to put in the work, put in the work, put in the. Seemingly nothing changes. You just keep shoveling and putting in the work, and all of a sudden all that rock is sitting on top of this puddle. So I have that image in my head. Now, that isn't my answer, but I have another image in my head about the.
You just like
That,
the analogy.
yeah, I haven't had a
There's
chance
no
to share
answer
that in
there.
a long time.
He just likes people to know that he likes to shovel gravel.
There we go.
So on that same theme, I started having this image in my mind that what just keeps me going is I'm thinking I'm on a destination, much like a finish line, right? Every step you get closer. And this finish line is whatever you want it to be, fitness, a certain weight that you want, whatever you're trying to fit into something, whatever it is, that every time I go out there, I'm getting closer to that goal. Maybe I can't see it because we can't see the finish line in our mind, but we know it's there. And so I'm putting in the work. That's what keeps me going, and putting on the shorts and the shoes and showing up at the trailhead because I know I'm getting closer to my goal. So that's a keep me going. Is that another way of saying gravel in a puddle
I
of?
think so. I think it
I
was a
think
good
it's no
metaphor.
different, right? It's no different.
Close enough.
What
For
about you,
me,
Scott?
what
Don't you get around this? What
I'm not
keeps you
going to.
going?
I have no metaphors about shoveling gravel, but I would say what keeps me going is just the hope that there is an aid station, the hope that there is a finish line. What keeps me going is the hope that the cramp is going to go away. The cramp's not going to get any better with me sitting on a log, right? All I need to do is maybe slow down a little bit, smell the roses, look around, look at the trees, look at the leaves, but keep going one step foot in front of the other, because I don't think my cramp's going to go away, or I don't think that the blister's going to miraculously disappear because I'm sitting down. I need to keep going. So that's what keeps me going, is just the hope that there's progress ahead, that there's some point of a destination or a pit stop or an aid station.
Good. I like that. Which leads to the third question, Scott, and it goes to Megan first because she's the guest here. What could make you stop? Is there anything that you can imagine that would stop you from running?
I think only if that the freedom or the privilege somehow was taken away. I don't think I would stop voluntarily. And even if running becomes hiking, to me, it's still kind of doing the sport. But yeah, I don't see any other reason to stop. I enjoy it. And the other piece of the why, I guess, is the being in nature. Yeah. So yeah, it would take maybe cutting my legs off, but then I would still go out in a wheelchair. I don't know.
You said, whether running turns into hiking, it's still running, and which is great, I think,
thank you.
I'm going for a run with it. Obviously going to be a
Eureka!
Hike, right? And then it made me start to think about when you're on a long run and all of a sudden you start to go on that efficient hike gait and you think, yeah, this is a hill. And it's not a hill at all. Before it was like a 45-degree hill that was a hike hill. Now it's a very 2-degree incline that you go, yeah, I think this is a hill. I'll walk this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It changes.
I'm there.
Perspective changes everything.
Yeah.
Scott, what would make you stop?
The only thing that would make me stop is if I hated it.
Oh.
If somehow, for whatever reason, I just didn't like it anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that there are days when I go, I really don't want to go for a run today. That's not a dislike. That's just an emotion of the current situation. If it is a true dislike, I think that's when I would stop. And I've been fortunate enough, I haven't reached that point, and I don't foresee that ever happening, because like Megan, even if I am just going out, Don, you and I have seen many people, and Megan, you've probably seen the same people out on those trails in Auburn, just old guys or old women that are out there that, they've been running, hiking, walking those trails for longer than we've been alive, and they're still out there.
Yeah.
And that inspires me, and that makes me feel that I will always love it.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you, Don?
I think for me, if I go out on a run and the next day I can barely walk because I've beat myself up so much, I'm thinking, this can't be good for me. And then I would modify it and I would do what Megan's talking about. I would call a hike my run, and I would just do that. So I'll always run.
We are, Don. Oh. Don't say that as a future thing. That's currently what we're doing.
That's because we're friends, Scott, and I'm behind you, and I'm just staying their pace. Whatever you pick. When you're not there, Scott, let me tell you.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
That loop is fast when I'm by myself.
Hey, Megan, I want to, and Don brought this up when we were talking earlier about your article. It's not just all about life, but there are some really good nuggets of wisdom. And we're thinking, okay, we're going to talk with the Queen, Meghan, who's been, competitively running since the 90s. And if she had 3 paragraphs, the article you wrote is not that long. This podcast is way longer than the article.
We're getting a lot of mileage out of this thing.
But as a runner, if you were, with all the experience you've had, able to give a new runner 5 pieces of running wisdom, you did it in this article, and specific running oriented. What was the first one? Let me pull up the article. Do you have it, Don?
Thank you.
I do. Yep. Overuse injuries. That was her first one. Tell us about that. What would you counsel this new runner about these 5 things? We'll take one at a time and just give us some wisdom.
Okay,
Overuse
so
injuries.
if overuse injury, someone calls and says, I twisted my ankle or I went running and my Achilles really hurts now, I would advise them to get some physical therapy with somebody who will help you understand the why. Because you can rest it and it can heal, but if you don't change anything, you're going to end up with the same injury. Is probably, people who have Achilles issues forever may have never gone to find someone who can address why you're getting an Achilles injury. So that'd be the first thing. Find out the why and get someone to help you change a pattern, change the type of shoe that you wear, change the surface you run on, change the volume. Maybe it just is overuse. Maybe you went from 0 to 40 miles a week or something. Well, that's not going to work out. So yeah, find someone to help you find the why and fix the why.
I just started a book this morning on my run by Brene Brown, who plays
Oh, I have a friend.
pickleball.
Is that how
And
slow we're running, Scott? You're actually reading while we run?
yeah, I had it out. I had it out in front of me. But she said exactly that, Megan, was she had an issue, an injury that happened with her playing pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
and she went to a really good physical therapist that told her some information that was really hard for her to hear. And that was, as she was getting older, that her core strength
Mm-hmm.
had diminished, and she's really fast. She has good leg strength, good arm strength,
Mm-hmm.
but she was compensating because the big muscle groups were losing muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had to start doing things that she didn't want to do, like one-legged dips,
Yep.
dipping down, or balancing exercises.
Yeah.
And she hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew, because she had a good therapist that said, the reason that you got hurt and the reason why you're going to continue to get hurt is because your core is not good. Let's work
Yeah.
on your core.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
Go to and it may not be your core. It may be something else. It may be your stride. It may be your
Yeah.
balance. It may be, a joint that is not fully functional.
Right.
So I think that's a brilliant thing. Overuse injuries, most runners have them, right?
Yeah,
We need to
absolutely.
figure out how to
Yeah.
minimize those.
Yeah. I think there's a statistic I think Jason Koop talked about that, like in the course of 1 year, 70% of all runners will be injured. It's like,
That's
oh, it's a
crazy.
sure, and it's not even a contact sport. Yeah.
Well, contacting the ground.
Yes, exactly. Those ground force, ground force contact.
Well, good. What's the second thing you might tell a newbie runner to help them to a long career?
I don't know. What's the list say?
I,
I'll help you with that.
stomach and GI issues.
Oh yeah.
And I
So
was surprised, because you said that you'd never had stomach or
I've never puked.
Okay.
I get
Good
diarrhea.
clarification.
No, I get diarrhea pretty regularly in races. But yeah, so I think the vomiting, which again I haven't, so I can't say that I know how you feel if you're vomiting, and I imagine it's not very pleasant. That feeling before you throw up anytime is just awful, and I can see how discouraging that can be for a runner to be sick and throwing up and feeling like the race is just over. And I counsel my runners on, if you throw up, then you need to reset, and you need to stop eating, for one thing. Just don't. You can sip water. And if you really just can't get the stuff down, take a nap. Just reset. And that really often helps quite a bit. And that's during a race. And you can then, after the race, let's process this. Let's figure out, why is it that you threw up? What is it that you tried or didn't try? Or did you do this in training, or did you just get a bug? All these things. So try to figure that out. And probably it is just something you need to work out in your nutrition. And then I would advise them to talk to a sports nutritionist. Figure out the things that are objectionable to your gut, and don't use them. And then the problem I always have is I'll just forget. I don't usually do this in races, but it has happened where like I eat a big salad or something the night before. I'm like, oh, that probably wasn't a great idea. And it's like, thank God it's trail running and there's bushes and there's places to hide. Um, but it's never, maybe occasionally it has affected my race, but I still finish. Um, and then I learn from that, and try not to repeat it. Yeah.
Megan, let me ask you the question: how much work on nutrition do you do during your training?
Um, I don't work that hard on it because over the years, my diet has just evolved into a pretty straightforward whole foods approach. I don't restrict anything, but I'm also not attracted to junk. I'm not, um, I just don't particularly care for high sugary foods or highly processed foods. I don't think they taste as good as what I can make with whole foods. So yeah, that's my diet is a lot of whole foods and everything. I don't, I eat meat, I eat all the vegetables, and I drink alcohol. But I listen to my body, and
Mm.
intuition works pretty well.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like to me you are constantly working on it because you follow a good nutrition plan and program, and it doesn't change for race day. It happens every day. So let me do a follow-up question for you. As you come across our traditional aid stations,
Hmm.
what do you pick off that table
Ooh,
that
good
fits
question.
This is going
fits
to be
your
really, really,
diet?
really boring. I use almost all liquid nutrition when I'm racing, so it'll be whatever electrolyte beverage they have, and the calories in that. And I'll eat bananas. That's about it. Generally, it's hard for me to chew up anything. My mouth always feels too dry, and it just sits there. So, and I'll do goo or whatever gel product is at the table. Um, but yeah, I like to drink my way through races.
Did you did you
Hmm.
ever could you ever process the what they call them, the gummies or the cubes?
Oh,
I could
the
never.
yeah, do the chomps and the
Yeah,
chews.
the blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the brand actually. I think the
Uh-huh.
honey stinger ones and the scratch ones must have more just I don't know something in it that dissolves easier because
Yeah.
otherwise yeah they stick in your teeth. Yeah.
It's making my mouth
So
water
yeah,
just talking about it, actually.
yeah, they're okay. I think they're nice to have in a pocket because if you do start to feel a little lightheaded or get a little bit behind, you can kind of stick one in your cheek, and it's not obnoxious. It's not like trying to choke a gel down when you're like getting a little edgy, but stick a chew in your mouth and get a little sugar going into the blood. I think they're pretty useful for that.
All right,
Good.
I'm ready to hear about this next one, Scott. As the Queen is dispensing information to a new runner that wants to be successful at this sport and follow in her footsteps, you are going to discuss being undertrained and overconfident.
Yeah. So occasionally, um, I'm not alone in this. Other coaches have seen this happen. Someone will want to be coached, and they've signed up for their first 100 miler that's now in 2 months, and they've been running for less than a year or something. And you're like, oh boy, I don't know if I can handle this.
Train wreck.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't like to be discouraging, but it doesn't seem like a good idea. Um, yeah, I believe in being as prepared as possible for a race and to take your time to get there and maybe think about first getting to a certain level of fitness and the ability to do some shorter races like a marathon. That's really short. So get to that point and then think about, 50 mile or 50K is not going to be a whole lot more challenging than a marathon, but take your time and build a really, really good base. I would say that's one reason I've been able to run for so long is I haven't over raced. I've um, just trained a lot. I like to train. It's kind of the best. Well, not the yeah, it's kind of the best part. The racing is the cherry on top,
Yeah.
but it's not the majority of what we do. Um, so to be patient, think about that. This is a lifestyle. This is an endeavor. It's not a goal that you do the race and then you're done forever. Unless, I mean, most of us get pretty addicted. So yeah, but I have gone into a few races where I was a little too confident based on my training. And I think I will approach a race like that anyway. Even if I took the time to think about it, I would say, yeah, probably not really ready to hit this particular goal I had in mind. Um, but I don't want to feed that into my conscience at the moment. Like here I am. Like maybe I'd been injured and so I was a little undertrained, but here I am. So I'm gonna still think I'm gonna run a certain time and then not. But I'd rather kind of find out afterward. But that's for me with a lot of experience. For someone new, I wouldn't advise that.
I'm curious. Let's say let's go back in time. You finished top 10 times,
10 times, yeah.
and you're going into your 11th race.
I only have 10 top tens.
You do?
I do.
My
I know. I thought when
research
you said 11,
failed.
I'm like, ooh, do I have one I didn't know about?
Well, we're gonna Ryan, don't edit that out. We're gonna give her 11. But let's say that you had not you've run 9 and you've 9 times you've finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
How do you not go into the 10th and not be overconfident, just thinking, you know what, I've done this 9 times. I can knock this out in my sleep. How do you
No,
not how do you not have that overconfidence?
I don't have that thought process
Okay.
because, and this comes from being coached and coaching. I coached cross country, high school cross country there for a few years, and it would always like make me shake my head when, they talk about team goals and always be something like, we're going to win districts. And I'm like, we don't get to control who shows up. We
Mm.
don't get to control how good these other schools are. We only get to control what we do. We can only do the best that we can based on the training we've done. And so that's how I always went in any race. I don't I don't go in thinking I'm going to win something unless I'm the only, only woman there, you know. And then I still have to finish, right? So that's really all you can do is be ready for the event that you have signed up for, the the terrain, um, and understand what your body is capable of doing at that point in time and do that thing. My first coach said to me also, he said, you don't have to make it happen. You let it happen. And it's all based
Oh.
on the training that you've done. And I do it just relax. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna do what I do. And I've done the training. And if everyone takes off and leaves me in the dust, that's fine. See ya. And maybe I do. A lot of times I will see people later. But that's even that. It's not what it's about. So it's about me getting from A to B. And if I can top 10, hooray.
Eureka!
I need to go back. There's a golden nugget. At least it's a golden nugget for me. Don't make it happen. Let it happen. I love that, Megan.
Yeah.
That's wisdom right there.
Yeah, I thought that was really, it's calming.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the stress out of like, trying too hard or, it's like, no, just let it happen. You've done it. You've done the work. This is where you can put it to test. Yeah.
There's some sayings that you hear early on that stay with you. They don't go away and they stay true. And one, as we were discussing right there, that came into my mind was that I remember hearing in the beginning, and I hope it's still said often today, you've got to respect the distance. And so
Yeah.
and Megan's shaking her head because I'm sure I probably heard it from her somewhere along the way. It was set on the trail and it floated back to me somewhere. But you've got to respect that, and when you don't, you can't win that 10th or 11th Western States positioning because you can never not respect the distance because
Mhm.
as soon as you do, the trail will take it right away from you. It'll trip you up. It'll make you have a bunk. It will do something to teach you the lesson that you have forgotten to respect the distance.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's move on. The next one is being underfueled. Talk to us
Yeah.
about that. How many times have you been underfueled on a training run or a race?
In a training run, a lot of times, I think I wrote in the article, especially if you've been a couple months without any long runs, kind of, coming off doing a big race like Western States, and then you start training again, and your training runs get longer and longer, and you've been only carrying, one bottle with, 100 calories or something, and you're out for 3 hours and you're just bonking. I'm like, oh, that's right. You're supposed to bring food on these things. um, and I, I think most of the time in races, I do okay. I think I keep up well enough. Um, there's been a few times where I realized, oh, I got a little behind there. Getting behind on nutrition isn't the end of the world. You can make that up. You can get back in a groove. You're going to lose some time for having to slow down, but you can get some energy back and feel good again. Getting dehydrated is a little harder to come back from, but yeah, mostly it's in training that I screw up. And for one thing, usually when I'm training, there aren't any aid stations, so it's like, darn it.
So when you fall into a situation where you're underfueled and you may go into a bonk or you start feeling, what does that feel like for somebody that hasn't been there before? And then you prescribed a solution, but I want you to say it again so everybody can hear. Once you fall into this underfueled
Oh yeah,
feeling.
it's not a hole to dig yourself.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I say? I have to look it up. Yeah, it's not a hole to bury yourself in. It's one to
Yeah.
dig yourself out of, because you can. You definitely can, and dehydration too.
How do you do that? How do you dig yourself out of a
Oh,
underfueled?
yeah. When you get to the next, if you haven't consumed all the calories that you're carrying, when you get to an aid station, go ahead and have a seat and eat. Eat whatever you can possibly eat. I mean, don't make yourself sick, but sit down and have some food. And you'd be surprised at how much better you'll feel in a pretty short amount of time. And even as you're leaving the aid station, walk for a while still eating. But yeah, that's when you can make up. You can get past that.
In your experience, what's something that's very difficult to get you to work your way out of? What's one, if one hits you, it's like, this is going to delay me about 50 spots in the race?
Well, that's funny you should ask that. So in my, 40 years? How many years? No, not 40. 40 years of running, I guess. 20 some years of ultra running. I've had only 3 DNFs. The first one was at UTMB and I was anemic and yeah, that that wasn't, it was awful. I was just
blood.
exhausted.
You need blood.
You need blood. The second one, I went to a race with an injury. I was already injured, and I wasn't sure how bad an injury it was, and wasn't sure because it wasn't weight bearing; it was more pushing off. And I got about a third of the way. It was 100K. I got about a third of the way through, and I couldn't really run downhill, and it was getting pretty painful. But I started with injury, and I knew ahead of time, okay, this might be one where you have to drop out, and I did. The third one was just.
You've got to respect the distance, Megan. You've got to
Yeah,
respect.
I know. Respect the distance, respect your body. The third one was just in August. I DNF'd at TDS, the Trace du Savoie, the first of the UTMB races of the week, 90 miles. And I had trained very specifically for it, and I was super excited about how the race was going. It went really well. I was so strong and able to hike like I've never hiked before, these long, 6-mile, 6,000 feet climbs. I was really excited. And I got to mile 60, and Craig Thornley was crewing for me, and he says, "You've passed 800 people today."
Wow.
Like, yeah, well, everybody took off really fast at the beginning. It was crazy. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. And then after I left that aid station, I had sat in a chair for a minute, like working with getting my lights, getting drinks and stuff. And when I left, my hip flexor was kind of cranky. And I'm like, well, that'll probably warm up and go away. A lot of times that happens, right? You're in a race, you get a little niggle, you just run a little bit. Okay, it's loosened up, it's all good. Well, it did not. And I had still, boy, 4 pretty significant climbs left in 30 miles. And I just, well, just keep moving. It's okay. I've got my poles. I can keep, then I start to, alter my gait, doing all the tricks that you possibly can to like not make that hurt. Ultimately, it was so painful. It was my adductor and my hip flexor. They were so painful that I didn't care that I wasn't going to have a Western States qualifier if I didn't finish. That's how bad it hurt.
Wow.
So I made up my mind at mile 75, but I still had to get to the aid station, which was at mile 80, and I dropped there. And I was limping pretty good. But yeah, I mean, there was the point where like after that would have had 2 more climbs. I just don't know that I could have done them. I couldn't really lift my leg up without a whole lot of pain. But yeah. Did that answer a question? I felt like that was a ramble.
You did. It's a difficult moment to make that decision when you're in the heat of battle, right? Have a sound mind and make a rational decision, one that you can look back on and be happy with later when you're making that decision when there's all the chaos going on.
Yeah.
What's your thought process as
Right.
you're in that
And I will
moment?
say that I had already decided I was going to walk it in. I didn't come all the way over here to, quit. Also needed that Western States qualifier. And no, it hurt so much. I'm like, no, this isn't good. It just hurts way too much. And, no one ever wants to see anybody limping anyway when they've got, however many miles left and they're just climbing and descending. And but what was good about the whole experience was I still felt so good about what I had accomplished in my training, that I was able to do those climbs and hike hard, and my placement was pretty good. I mean, not that matters, that's all relative, but I felt like I had accomplished what I meant to accomplish, and that was to be able to race in the mountains, and that to me was a win. Of course, I do want to go back and actually finish it, but yeah.
And you had the race
and I want to just make a quick detour.
Go ahead, Scott.
He was there already, but I had asked him to crew for me. But yeah.
I was just going to say, I want to come kind of make a little detour and come back to the beginning of the episode where you said people that drop out because they say it just wasn't my day. That is in stark comparison to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where there was an injury or an issue that would have, if continued, it probably would have exacerbated itself and made things much, much worse. And your attitude was not, it's just not my day. Your attitude was, my body can't do what I need it to do to finish. Right, so I think that I just want to be clear, as we started at the beginning saying you should never quit. That's not what we said.
Right.
We
said,
go ahead.
Yeah. Megan. And I think one of the last things I say is if you do have to finish because of an injury or you don't make a cutoff, then it's still your day and you then have to process it. But yeah, I felt like TDS was still my day because of just how great it all felt until it didn't. But again, yeah, you don't want to hurt yourself. So,
and I want to give Don credit. He used to come up with some titles of our episodes years ago, and then he just left me alone, and I've had to come up with titles. But before we started this episode, before you came on, Megan, he said, "I have the title for this episode." Tell us what it is, Don. Did you write it down? If you didn't, I wrote it down.
Well, Scott, you usually take credit.
Obviously, you forgot.
So just go. Yeah.
This was Don's title for the episode. They're all your days.
Yeah.
So you can't say this is not my day.
Yeah.
They're all your days, regardless of the result. Take ownership and respond in a positive way and say, this is my day, even though it didn't turn out the way that I had planned.
Exactly. That's life.
And there's probably
things don't always go to plan. things don't always go as planned.
And there's a lesson in there waiting for you to learn. And you were handed that day to take something away. And if they were all perfect days, you would never learn some of those essential lessons that were waiting for you. As you said earlier on, you learn the most from mistakes. So here you go. What a great learning day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And one thing that Don and I learned doing this podcast for 14 years is something called peak end. We have not covered. There's one more thing that's in your article, but we're not going to talk about it because I think we've peak ended this.
Okay.
We've kind of brought everything around to why life is an adventure, that this is why you wrote this article and how running is a microcosm of that. I want to ask one final question for you, Megan.
Oh, Scott, are you going to ruin the peak end? Are you
No. This is a denouement.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that from seventh grade English class. This is the denouement. I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called, Megan?
I don't know. Is that like the last word?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I just remembered that I like to say denouement. For the English teachers out there, you can write in and tell me if I'm wrong. But this is the question. Life has not gone, no one has a life that goes exactly as planned. I want to know, has there been anything that you've learned in running that has helped get you past the hiccups in life or when things in life didn't go as planned? Have you been able to fall back on lessons that you've learned running to get you through it?
Maybe just in a general sense of resilience, and that this too shall pass. Like any, suffering moments emotionally, you can think, yeah, I'm resilient. I can get past this. But nothing really pops to mind. I think I've more used running to get through emotionally rough times. It's brain chemistry, just better living through chemistry. And I can be more rational. I can have great conversations with myself about, how to deal with a situation. I can process things while I'm running.
Wow, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
You get better when you practice things. When they come at you so many times and you've done this before. So I would imagine there's things that all the runners are confronted with in life that may not have been so difficult had they had, like me making a sentence here. Can you scramble that somehow and pull it out? People that run here, I'm gonna pull this out. People that run have experienced so much hardship that when it actually happens in life, it doesn't seem quite so bad.
Yeah.
I remember when one of our friends, Don and my friends, was going through cancer that eventually took his life. He was saying when things got really bad, he says, "I'm just at mile 70."
Yeah.
And that's how he processed the pain and the despair that he felt going through chemo and other surgeries. He goes, "I'm just at mile 70. It's going to pass. I will get better and I will finish."
Yeah.
So the article is Adventure of Life, and it's in, for our YouTube viewers, our 2 YouTube viewers, it's from the October-November 2025 Ultra Running Magazine. Brilliant article. You need to go and get it and read because we left one thing out from the article. So even though the article was short and we talked for an hour, there's still more article left in this in that article that Megan wrote.
And Megan, it was one that Scott needed to read because it applied to him the most.
It does.
I was wondering why he left that out. Because he needs that advice.
It's a problem I constantly have. So anyway, Megan, thank you for coming on. We need to have you on more. So we'll make sure that we keep you on our speed dial, and you keep us on your speed dial as well.
Okay, will do. Thanks for having me. It was real fun.
Thank you. And so whatever you do, get some shoes on and get outside, find some nature, find a road, find a trail, and run.
Mas. Thank you, Queen. That was awesome.
You did really, really well.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
Megan.
And as an
Thanks.
editor's note, Scott was totally right about the denouement, or whatever, however you pronounce it. Totally right. I didn't think he was, but he was. So
What is the definition? It's after you hit the peak. It's a little bit of a respite, right?
Yeah, it's the final part of a narrative in which the strands of the plot are drawn together and all matters are explained and resolved and whatnot.
Wow,
So,
Ryan.
perfect.
Hey, do we have that? We're recording still, right?
Yep, that's why I said
Okay,
it, so I'm
okay.
including the
We just-
Excellent.
We,
If you were wrong,
we need to
wrong,
keep
we'd never put it on.
we need to keep that in the show. It's pronounced because my 8th and 9th grade English teacher, my 9th grade English teacher, Ms. McKenzie, not Mrs., not Miss, Ms. McKenzie, told us about denouement. I think that's how you say it. I was in
That's how
Wyoming.
That's
I
how
don't
she
know.
said it. Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks,
Megan.
Megan.